Welcome to ASIAL's virtual industry briefing. I'm Peter Johnson, ASIAL's Compliance and Regulatory Affairs Advisor. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and paying respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which we each gather today, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. To commence our presentation, I welcome John Gillels, ASIAL's President.
Good morning and welcome to this ASIAL industry briefing. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Gillels and I'm the recently elected ASIAL President. I've served on the board since 2014 and as the Vice President since 2016. On behalf of the entire ASIAL board, I'd like to welcome you to this industry briefing. Over the next couple of minutes, I'd like to share with you a bit about our core themes and some of our strategies. So firstly, our core themes. At ASIAL, we have two main core themes. One is a safe and secure Australia. And the second, together, each achieves more. These two core themes will central around every discussion that we have and every publication that we do. Because we really want to promote what the private security industry is doing, and we're doing some really great stuff out there to keep our communities safe and to keep our country safe. And together, each achieves more. If you think about it, in the industry, there's over 150,000 licensed security personnel. We employ with our support staff about 180,000 people, and we contribute about $10 billion to the economy. We're much larger than the police force, we're much larger than the Australian Defence Force, and we're much larger than those two combined. That gives us a strong voice, and it gives us a strong foot forward into telling the media and telling the government what we do to keep our great nation safe. We want to promote that, we want to get the message out, and we want to get it out very strongly. Some of our strategies that you'll see, we're going to really have some really great strategies being executed over the next 12 months. First and foremost is a research paper called Security 2025. This is a research paper, the first of its kind. It's going to tell you about the industry, where we are today, where we'll be in 5 years' time, and more importantly, how every member can get to that point in 5 years' time, so we're not falling behind. We have some other great strategies. We really want to promote women in security and how we can get more females into the industry. We want to promote careers in the industry. There's a lot of great people out there, a lot of talented people that have spent their entire working career in the industry. We want to promote that, and we want to promote others to come into the industry through training, through promotions to universities and TAFEs, and through other means. You're going to see some really, really good stuff over the next 12 months. I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can contact me through LinkedIn or through ASIAL. Hopefully I can meet everyone after all these lockdowns. So thank you and enjoy this industry briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for your presentation, and congratulations on your recent appointment. We certainly look forward to the exciting times ahead. We have Brian and Gav providing additional information on Security 2025 shortly. I'd like now to introduce Jack Alpey and Julian Cartwright from Guardhouse, our sponsors for this virtual briefing.
Good morning, everyone. We're delighted to be the breakfast sponsor for another ASIAL event. We've put a QR code at the bottom of each page so you guys can download a copy of our brochure at any time. For those who don't know us, my name is Jack. I also have Julian with me, and we're both co-founders of Guardhouse. We wanted to give you a little bit of an update today on where we're at as a business and some of the exciting features that we've got coming up. We launched Guardhouse in 2018, and in that time we've now partnered with 112 companies nationally who are publishing over 90,000 shifts a week and collectively have over 38,000 staff. Here's some of our partnered clients.
Our customers love our best-in-class features and workflow on employee scheduling, time and attendance, payroll and invoicing, and instant reporting, along with GPS mobile time clock, automated license checks, offered shifts, skill matching, and our rich customer portal functionality. This results in the benefits of a 62% reduction in time to build rosters and communicate shifts to staff, a 100% reduction in the time it takes to run license checks manually, a 56% reduction in payroll processing time, and a 48% reduction in invoicing generation and distribution time. The companies that choose Guardhouse see an average of 741% return on investment. Plenty of life left in the year, and our development team are working hard to deliver some exciting functionality before the end of 2021. We'll be releasing automated compliance management, labour partner live rosters, pre-shift calls and on-shift welfare checks, and customer portal shift requests.
We're offering those who attended the breakfast this morning a 20% discount on their first year's subscription, and all our contact details are in the QR code when you scan it. Thank you, and hopefully speak to you soon.
Thank you, Jack and Julian. Your offerings and continued support of ASIAL and our industry is certainly appreciated. I would now like to introduce Brian De Carys, ASIAL CEO, to introduce Security 2025, a roadmap for the future.
At the end of last year, ASIAL commissioned the Australian Security Research Centre to undertake a comprehensive analysis of the threats, challenges and opportunities facing the private security industry in Australia. The result of that study is the Security 2025, a roadmap for the future report. The report acknowledges the vital role the private security industry plays as part of Australia's national security mix, as a force multiplier and a business enabler. The report looks at a range of different issues, from security threats, mega trends, the issue of digitization, labour market challenges, and a range of other issues that the industry needs to consider as it plans for the future. In setting out a clear roadmap for the industry, the report has found out that there's a number of key things that needs to be done, and probably the key takeouts that I'd like to just briefly touch on before I hand over to Gav. And that is a range of activities that the security industry itself needs to undertake as part of the planning for the future. And obviously within that, ASIAL has a key role to play as part of that. There's also a range of key activities and key steps that regulators need to undertake. And of course, end users have a range of initiatives and steps that they need to complete in order to get to where we want to get to. But I think what the single most important message that I'd like to make today is that to build organizational capability and capacity within the private security industry for the future and to meet the future needs of customers depends on a combined approach between industry, regulators, and end users. Together, we will be able to address some of the issues that are affecting the industry and that will be holding the industry back. But in silos, we will not achieve that. So the key takeout before I hand over to Gav, that I'd like everyone, hopefully you will all read the report and digest all that's in there, but is that we need to work together, as I say, government, industry, and end users. So I'll now hand you over to Dr. Gav Schneider, who is the lead researcher for the project.
For those of you who've been following the research process for the Security 2025 project, you'll know that we contacted many of you and asked you to complete surveys. And remember, those surveys looked not just from the provider perspective, we also looked at the consumers and users of private security. We ran workshops, focus groups, and conducted a robust set of interviews. And my colleague, Dr. Paul Johnson, spent a lot of time working through literature. If you have a look at the end of the report, you'll see we looked at 30 plus different documents, research reports, and items of relevance to the study. So I'm very pleased to say that we've produced a product that I think is Australia's largest study into the private security industry. And we've got something, as Brian mentioned, that will hopefully provide a roadmap, not just for users of security or providers of security, but for regulators and other stakeholders to understand the critical role that the private security industry plays in securing Australia. It's not simple, and I urge you please to take the time to read the report. There's going to be the report and a summary of the report. You'll see there's lots of graphics and key takeaways. It's quite a user-friendly document. We will also be presenting and talking about this at the Protective Security and Government Conference, at ASIAL Security Conference in November, and we're running a few podcasts and a few other items. But in essence, the report itself is useless if we don't apply what is in it. So what I'd urge you to be doing when you work through the report is just start to think about those key takeaways you can apply in your own business, or the education components you can start driving for your clients, and the combined voice we need to have when looking at trying to enhance and improve regulation. It's not going to be simple, but as Brian mentioned, the key takeaway is that we will not get the security industry that we want and deserve and contribute as effectively as we can to Australia's national security interests unless it is an integrated approach where primarily three parties, the providers, the users, and the regulators, start working together to drive a level of service and performance that is world-class. There are numerous trends, and Brian alluded to a few of them, that need to be taken into account. And whether you work in electronic security, cyber security, or physical security and man guarding, it's quite important that we slowly start the shift to digitization and implementing some of the technology tools and options that are now available even to small-scale providers. If we don't, we are slowly going to find that we are not as competitive as security industries in other countries. We did note that there are resistance to change, challenges with some of these pieces, but these need to be overcome. So in summary, thank you to ASIAL, and thank you to all of you who participated and shared your knowledge, insights, and thoughts with us to put the study and the report together. I would say that producing the report is a great milestone, but it only starts the journey. And I urge you, please, to provide feedback to ASIAL or reach out to us if you'd like to know more. But as a parting message, I think we can all start working together at the little pieces we can control and influence to start moving our industry and sector forward now that we have a robust roadmap in place. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you at another event soon.
Thank you, Brian and Gav. I'm sure we will see Security 2025 initiative be the benchmark for the direction of our industry. I would now like to introduce Cara Pritchard and Leanne Rayner of MAS National to present on technical training funding.
Hi, my name's Cara Pritchard and I'm from MAS National in South Australia, and today I'm joined by my lovely colleague Leanne Rayner, who's from our Victorian team. We're going to talk all things apprenticeships and traineeships, but we're also going to share with you some really exciting news on a subsidy called Boosting Apprenticeship Commencement Wage Subsidy. Over to you, Leanne.
Thanks, Cara. So who are MAS National and who are we? MAS National is an Australian apprenticeship support network provider, which is a mouthful. We've been delivering apprenticeship support services for 23 years, and that includes promoting training and employment pathways. So our organisation works to support industry through workforce development, and we support schools and community groups, job seekers, career changers, and school leavers into meaningful employment. So the most common question we get, Cara, as you know, is what is an apprenticeship or a traineeship? So an Australian apprenticeship, which is a common phrase, it's an Australian apprenticeship is an apprenticeship or traineeship, which is a learning pathway that combines paid on-the-job training with formal study through a registered training organisation. So basically, earn as you learn. By completing an apprenticeship or traineeship, the learner gains a nationally recognised qualification as well.
You're absolutely right, Leanne. We do get asked that question all the time. And the good news is we are here to work with you to help you understand which apprenticeships and traineeships are actually available in your sector. So what are the benefits of apprenticeships and traineeships? Well, from the employer's point of view, there is funding that's available, and that is funding that we're going to go into a bit more detail about in this recording. But there is also state government initiatives that will be specific to your business. So we can actually work with you to help you understand those. That could be things like payroll tax and other incentives that are happening in particular states. It also leads to improved productivity. So if a staff member has been trained properly, they are able to undertake their work and you will see benefits of that training in their daily work. It also leads to increased staff retention, and trained employees quite often meet legislative requirements of industry. So lots of different industries will have certain requirements where training has to be done to a certain level, and you can actually attain those, meet those levels by undertaking apprenticeships or traineeships. There are also benefits for both the apprentice or trainee. They can gain relevant training for their job role. As Leanne mentioned earlier, they achieve a nationally recognised qualification. They earn while they learn, and it does increase their loyalty because they can feel that they're being invested in as part of your business.
Absolutely, Cara. So funding, and this is one of our other common questions that we receive and something that we love to talk about. So funding for trainees and apprentices. So what incentives are available to those who undertake a traineeship or an apprenticeship? So potential standard incentives. So these are the incentives that have been around all the time or have been around for years. Obviously, there's eligibility criteria, but the basics are that there's a commencement incentive, which is paid at the 6-month point, and that's around $1,500. The completion incentive, which is paid on successful completion of the traineeship or apprenticeship, which is $2,500. And as you mentioned before, Cara, there's also extra state funding as well. But in terms of the federal funding, there's also extra funding available for employers who take on school-based apprentices or trainees, or for those undertaking a qualification that's on the National Skills Shortage list. And that could also be up to an additional $4,000. So you could have your $4,000 commencement and completion and an additional $4,000 for somebody undertaking an NSNL qualification for supporting adult apprentices as well. So anyone over 21. So that's an extra incentive also.
And we can work with you to help you understand which qualifications are on that National Skills Needs list, because there are some qualifications that are relevant to your industry there. Absolutely. Now, without further ado, a bit of information around the boosting apprenticeship commencements. So as we all know, COVID has continued to be a challenge here in Australia and obviously a challenge in some of the states that we work in at the moment. So out of that, the Boosting Apprenticeship Commencements Wage Subsidy was generated, and it is a subsidy that provides extra support to employers who engage new apprentices and trainees, and the support is in the form of a 12-month wage subsidy capped at $28,000 per eligible apprentice or trainee. So that it is actually per, so you could potentially take on 10 new apprentices or trainees and actually attract the subsidy for all of them. It is available to all new workers who meet primary eligibility, and we'll take you through a bit of information on that as we go through this slideshow. It also is available to existing workers who are on the trades list, and again, we'll work with you so you understand who that is specifically, or existing workers who have transitioned from casual to part-time or full-time, or from part-time to full-time to undertake the apprenticeship or traineeship. Now, I know that sounds like a mouthful, but we will actually work through with you individually to help you understand who that is that falls into those categories. So
yeah, you're
over
right,
to you,
Cara.
Leanne.
Thanks. And I think in addition to that, I mean, this COVID incentive or the Boosting Apprenticeships Commencement Wage Subsidy is all about getting people into work or creating more permanent positions. So converting those people from casual into permanent part-time or permanent full-time positions. So
absolutely, the government are happy to support the fact that employers are actually able to provide those opportunities to the individuals, and then in return the government want to support them through that process.
Agreed. So the wage subsidy, and am I eligible, which is a common question. What is that primary eligibility that you spoke about before? So for an employer to be eligible for the Boosting Apprenticeship Commencement Wage Subsidy, the apprentice or trainee must be undertaking a certificate 2 or higher qualification, which, as you mentioned, we can go through in more detail. And they must meet that primary eligibility. So they've either got to be a citizen, an Australian citizen or permanent resident, or a New Zealand passport holder who's been in the country for 6 months or longer. They must have appropriate employment and training arrangements that we mentioned before. And if they're an existing worker, they must meet that existing worker criteria that we mentioned just on the earlier slide. They also need to have a training contract that's formally approved by the state training authority in their state, but that's the part that we assist with. So we get that training contract done, and once it's submitted and approved, then you're hunky-dory.
So really, we're here to support you through that whole process. Now, what is classified as a new worker? So in the government's eyes for this particular program, a new worker is someone who's worked for the business less than 3 months full-time or less than 12 months part-time or casual. So there is a fairly large window there, and we can sit down with you and look at your full workforce development piece and work out who those new workers are and make sure that there is an opportunity to maximise the subsidy for them. An existing worker is someone who's been with the current employer for more than 3 months full-time or more than 12 months part-time, But as we mentioned before, there are opportunities to transition people from casual to part-time or full-time, or from part-time to full-time. And what kind of qualifications can be done through an apprenticeship or traineeship? Well, you can actually undertake a certificate through to advanced diploma qualifications. And I think a lot of the time people think apprenticeships and traineeships are entry-level qualifications, and qualifications that aren't at that higher level, but there are so many different, I think it's over 500 qualifications that are available. So we can work through that with you. And in your industry, there are potential qualifications in the ICT, security, the cabling. There are also business certificates, because there are people who would be working in the offices or working in the back end to support you. And there are also leadership qualifications that are available. So we haven't actually listed all of the qualifications because there are so many of them, but we can work with you individually to work out what the appropriate qualification is for your business.
Yeah, absolutely right, Cara. And I think it's important to note that when we talk about apprenticeships and traineeships, everyone thinks about those traditional trade apprenticeships that are available, and everybody knows those trades, but it equally applies to traineeships, where it could be basically any job that you think of, there could be a traineeship connected to that.
Absolutely.
So is my business eligible for the Boosting Apprenticeships Commencement, or I'm going to call it back from now on? It's a mouthful.
Much easier.
Yeah, all businesses are eligible regardless of their size, income or geographic location. To be eligible, you need to engage an Australian apprentice or trainee anytime between the 5th of October 2020, so last year, and the 31st of March 2022. So that 12 months starts whenever your start date of your traineeship or apprenticeships commences. And your Australian apprentice or trainee needs to be undertaking that certificate 2 or higher qualification and have a training contract that's fully approved or formally approved by the relevant state training authority. And as Cara mentioned before, we'll support you through this whole process. So if you have somebody that you're just not sure about whether they're eligible or not, or you've got a whole group of people whether you're not sure, or you're wanting to take someone on, we'll actually work with you to give you some sort of indication of what you may be eligible for.
So I guess this is a pretty important one. How much is the subsidy? Well, as we mentioned earlier, it is up to $28,000. So the wage subsidy is 50% of the Australian apprentice or trainee's gross wage paid, capped at $7,000 a quarter. So there'll be 4 different quarters, and in each of them, there is up to the $7,000 that can be claimed back. The wage subsidy is available for wages paid in a 12-month period from the commencement date, which Leanne alluded to earlier. When will the payments be made? A very common question we get asked. So as I said, they are paid quarterly in arrears, and they are directly into the employer's nominated bank account. So MAS do administer this process. We send out a claim form. We ask you to fill out the claim form and attach the wage evidence for that period of time. And then we go through and pay the claim, which I think I've just answered my next question before I even got to it. Over to you, Leanne.
Thanks, Cara. And just to remember, something to remember is that this Boosting Apprenticeships Commencement Wage Subsidy is in addition to those standard incentives that we mentioned before. So it could be $28,000 wage subsidy, plus the $4,000 standard incentives, and plus any extra incentives that may be available through the federal government, plus any state government incentives that might be available as well. So are there any specific exclusions for back? So an employer will not be paid back or the Boosting Apprenticeships Commencement Wage Subsidy where the employer is receiving any other form of Australian government wage subsidy or equivalent for that apprentice or trainee, or that the Australian apprentice or trainee is undertaking a qualification that they've already done before, basically. So even if it's an upgrade of the same qualification, they won't be able to attract the back. So long as they're doing something new, that's all fine. And then what if your apprentice or trainee cancels or suspends through the claim period? That's fine. All you need to do is let us know, and you get paid up until that date where they've cancelled. Or if they're suspended, you can pick up that payment again once they're back and working with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Leanne. Well, that brings us to the end and really what's next. So our team, as we've mentioned throughout the entire recording, we're here to support you through the process. We have staff members all across Australia who are out in their cars, available to pop into your business and sit down with you and learn about your business and learn about what your needs are, and then work out what the best workforce development plan is for you that aligns to apprenticeships and traineeships, so you're able to maximise the opportunities that are available. You'll see on the next slide mine and Leanne's details. You're more than welcome to contact us directly. We can link you with the appropriate people, and we will be online to answer your questions. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, Cara and Leanne. It's good to understand what funded options we have in our industry for training. I would now like again to introduce Brian De Caires to provide a security industry update.
Thank you all for your participation this morning. I just wanted to take a few minutes to run through a few industry issues that have happened over recent months. As you will have seen over the last few weeks, we've circulated a copy of the 2021 ASIAL Annual and Financial Report through First Alert and other channels. The past year, whilst it's been a difficult one for the industry and for ASIAL itself, we've managed to perform particularly well this last year, and we saw some positive signs within our membership. If you look at some of the reports and charts that are contained within the report, we saw membership growth of 4.25%, and we saw strong member engagement, which is shown by the illustration on the right, which shows the use of the ASIAL website, the amount of email notifications that were sent out to members. So engagement and membership growth was very strong for the past year, which is very encouraging. Similarly, we've run a number of different campaigns and different issues that have arisen over the last year. We reached about an audience of around a total audience reach potential of just under 60 million. We continue to see a strong growth in our social media platforms in terms of followers. And we've also seen significant membership, not only membership engagement, but media engagement. So we've had 120 media mentions compared with 73 in the year before. Financially was also a very positive year with a surplus, an operating surplus of just over about $110,000. We also had a revaluation of the Security Industry House, which was purchased back in 2009, which saw an additional revaluation of the building, which has seen the reserves of the association continue to rise. The good news is the association's in good hands and in a sound financial position. Over the recent weeks, we've also been calling on members to promote vaccination within their workforce. It's an important thing as we go through this race to get to the roadmap out of the lockdown. We're seeing some encouraging signs in some states. So what I'd encourage you to do is have a look at the materials that we've sent out. There are a number of tools that are available to help you promote vaccination within your workforce. So if you need any help, please give us a call and we'll be happy to help you. In July, we celebrated International Security Officers Day, the 5th annual event that we've actually had this day. Through ASIAL's involvement and those of the industry participants, we've reached an audience of over 30 million through editorial features in a range of newspapers, radio, as well as social media, not just here in Australia, but around the world. And the following slide just shows some of the pictures and some of the photos. We were delighted to have Nick Caldas as the patron for the event this year. We even got support from the Home Affairs Minister, who posted to social media on the day. We will start work in the coming months for the 2022 event. So if you didn't participate this year, please get on board next year and have a role to play as part of promoting the day and promoting the role that private security officers play around, not just Australia, but around the world. The Security 2021 event, unfortunately, the event scheduled to be held as a face-to-face event at the end of November has had to be converted to a virtual event, but we will continue with the ASIAL conference program with all, if not most of the speakers that were confirmed to do the face-to-face program. It is an impressive lineup. Some of the speakers are featured here. If you haven't seen the program, please go online to the ASIAL website. You will be able to see who the speakers are, the topics, but one of the key themes, and it's one of the themes that you will notice in the Security 2025 report, which was issued last week, is that the issue of digitization, digital transformation, the use of artificial intelligence and technology will be key themes running through our industry over the coming years. So please have a look at the conference, get involved. It's a very full-on program, but I think you will find it very enlightening and very helpful in terms of planning for the future. Another upcoming event, which unfortunately has had to be changed to a virtual event, is the 2021 Awards for Excellence. So this year's program, as always, will feature the ASIAL Awards, the Outstanding Security Performance Awards, and the Australian Security Medals Foundation Awards. The awards will be announced on the 27th of October. Registrations for the event are now open, and they are free. So please, if you haven't already done so, please go online at the website address there, or you can email us at Security@ASIAL to get a link to the registration page. But please register. It promises to be a very an interesting evening, and some very worthwhile recipients will be announced. Another activity that's happened since we were able to last meet was the announcement of the delayed ASIAL board elections, whereby John Galell was elected as the new president of ASIAL, and Rachel Saunders as the vice president, and the other 6 directors as listed there were elected. Over the coming months and year, hopefully we'll get a chance for you to meet face to face with our new board. But again, if you haven't had a look at the ASIAL website, there's information there about the directors in the annual report profile. So please have a look at that. Another issue which has been bubbling along over the last 12 to 18 months is the issue of insurance for not just the private security industry, but for many other industry sectors. ASIAL made a submission in June to the Insurance Council of Australia's strategic review of the availability and affordability of insurance cover. And as a result of that submission, we have been invited to participate in a project to look at how we can make insurance more affordable and available to a broad range of industries, not just security, but certainly security. There are a number of different areas that that working group will look at, but certainly one which is becoming increasingly of interest and concern to the industry is the issue of COVID insurance, where a growing number of insurers are having exclusions for COVID cover. So that will be an issue that we will look to address. You will have noticed over the last couple of months that there was a public comment document issued for the AS2201 intruder alarm standard. That comment period is now closed, and the final amendments will be made to the standard, which will hopefully be available either later this year or early next year. There is currently a public comment draft out for security detection dogs, which closes on the 11th of October. Again, if you're interested in that, that's a link to the document is on the ASIAL website. But if you have any comments on that, please ensure you get your comments into the Standards Australia portal by the 11th of October. Finally, the ASIAL podcast series continues with the latest 2 podcasts look at crisis and issues management in a post-COVID world and developing a convergent security strategy to protect an organization. Both of the podcasts involve speakers who will be speaking at the Security 2021 conference in November. So again, I encourage you to have a look at those podcasts. There are a back catalogue of podcasts that we have put out, and we will be putting an additional vodcast, which will be coming out late next week on the Security 2025 report, which will include a range of different perspectives, and that will analyse some of the issues that are raised in the report and what that actually means for the industry. So I would encourage you to keep an eye open for these podcasts and the vodcasts that they put out there to help you make some decisions and understand what's happening in our industry. So that brings me to an end.
Thank you, Brian. There is certainly a lot going on in our industry. I'd now like to introduce Chris Delaney, ASIAL's Industrial Relations Advisor, to provide an IR industry update.
Hello, I'm Chris Delaney, ASIAL's Workplace Relations Advisor. Lots happening in the industrial landscape, and much of it seems to be driven by the COVID-19 pandemic. Employers have a lot of questions, a lot of very difficult questions to deal with, and often, unfortunately, those questions don't have simple black and white answers. The question we are asked most is, can an employer direct an employee to have a vaccination against COVID-19? The short answer, of course, is yes. But with a lot of these things, there is a caveat. Any direction you give to an employee must be lawful and reasonable. And in the context of the COVID-19 vaccinations, the criteria for determining what is lawful and reasonable will fall into one of two areas. It'll either be a government public health order, or as a result of the work health and safety legislation, specifically Section 19 of the Work Health and Safety Act, which has in most states harmonised legislation. Now, state governments have in some limited instances issued public health orders restricting unvaccinated workers from entering or leaving LGAs of concern to attend work. Or in some instances, only allowing authorised workers who have had at least one vaccination to work in authorised workplaces. So only in very limited circumstances will employers have the right to direct employees to have the COVID-19 vaccination, or for that matter, the flu vaccination. For an employer to reach the point where they could be satisfied that the direction to vaccinate would be lawful and reasonable, in my opinion, it would be necessary to conduct a risk assessment of the work, where the work is performed, and the available PPE and risk mitigation factors. The Fair Work Ombudsman has provided a worthwhile profile of what might be considered 4 tiers of risk. We recommend that members visit the Fair Work Ombudsman's website and have a look at that. In a risk assessment, you'll need to consider the following questions. Does the employee work with people who would be vulnerable to COVID-19 and experience serious health issues? Does the employee work in a high-risk area, for instance, hotels, hotel quarantine, airlines, that sort of thing? Is the vaccination essential for the performance of the work? Is there a genuine reason why the employee may refuse to have the vaccination? How will a refusal affect the work health and safety responsibilities of the employer towards other employees or towards the community? Are there opportunities to redeploy an employee who refuses to be vaccinated in order to alleviate those safety issues? Now, ASIAL doesn't recommend that employers give directions to employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19 without having first sought sound professional advice. We will soon have a webinar to deal with the other COVID-related questions. Can I make vaccination a condition of employment? When we return to work, can I insist that only vaccinated employees can come back to work? What can I do if the customer will only have fully vaccinated security at the workplace? And should I have a return to work plan? Now, those issues will be discussed at a later date, and we encourage you to contact us if you need to know the answers. But just quickly on casual conversion, on the 27th of September, employers other than small businesses were obliged to offer eligible casuals conversion to permanent employment if the casual has been employed by the employer for 12 months and during the last 6 months has worked a regular pattern of hours on an ongoing basis, which, without significant adjustment, the employee could continue to work as a full-time or part-time employee. Now, if you haven't commenced that exercise, you should do so. If you need help or advice on that, or any other workplace issue, you can contact me, ir@asial.com.au, and thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and for your industry advice and member support. It is certainly valued. We will now have the opportunity for our Q&A session. I guess, Jack, you're online, Guardhouse, and again, we thank you very much for your support. It's certainly appreciated. And one of the areas that we have questions is, does the Guardhouse program integrate with other packages like MYOB, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so definitely, and that's really seen as a huge time saver for our clients. So yeah, Guardhouse generates all your payroll and invoicing information, and then integrates into MYOB and Xero are sort of the main two, but there are other packages that we also integrate with as well.
All right, just in relation to that, what is you've indicated there's other things coming in. So what are timelines for some of your new products coming through?
Yeah, sure. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be releasing the ability for guards to update and manage their own compliance documents. We'll also be releasing welfare checks next week, which we're super excited about. So check calls when the guard's out on site just to make sure they're okay. And then we're testing our labour partner sharing feature at the moment, and we're hoping to release that to the market towards the end of the year. So next month or so.
All right, just while I'm on with Jack and some of the areas that Guardhouse integrating with work health and safety programs, how do you go there?
Yeah, so more of the integration piece will be sort of mid next year, but the work health and safety stuff can be sort of managed in Guardhouse today through our compliance management piece and also our custom incident form builder.
All right, and really appreciate that. I guess we have one there that comes up, and either Cara or Leanne in relation to Mass National. And thank you very much. I think our industry, we do struggle in recognising opportunities for funded training, and it was really interesting to hear that the funding actually is not just for entry-level training; it is for really people for ongoing development, and that's really very interesting there. But is there a cost for the employer to engage Mass National to assist in this program?
No, so we're a free service. So we are contracted to the Commonwealth Government to deliver that service. So basically, Leanne and I have got teams all over Australia. We can come out or meet with you via Zoom and talk about your business's specific needs, and then look at your workforce development needs, and then guide you on what qualifications would be relevant for your business to onboard new staff or to upskill your current staff. And that can be qualifications from a Cert 2 level through to an advanced diploma level. So as you said, Peter, there is so many options, more than what I think people initially think when they think of that traineeship space.
Yeah, because one of the things that comes up is that, oh, well, security industry doesn't really have apprentices. But really, this is also about trainees, which are a little bit different to the traditional apprenticeship. So the security industry can really capture the area of traineeships. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Traineeships are a huge piece of the puzzle. And I think it's a bit of a myth that everyone thinks that there's just apprenticeships out there and they're just available for, 18-year-olds entering those traditional trades. But there are actually over 500 qualifications that you can do through traineeship or apprenticeship pathways. And, businesses have admin staff members or finance, HR, marketing. There's IT qualifications. There's actually specific security qualifications. So really, it's just a matter of having a chat with us and we can help businesses understand which qualifications would be relevant to them.
And I guess in relation to some of the things that Brian indicated and Gav indicated in Security 2025, the industry's got a lot of change. And even in the area of cybersecurity, someone could be picking up a traineeship in one of the, say, a certificate 4 in cybersecurity potentially.
Definitely. Cybersecurity is a big one at the moment. So we know that there's a big call for businesses to upgrade their cybersecurity and to actually have staff who are on board who are qualified in that cybersecurity qualification is a really important thing to do. So yeah, we can certainly help with cybersecurity qualifications.
All right. And also, now you're from South Australia and Victoria. But where does that leave our ACT members? How do you support them in the ACT?
Yeah, so we've got staff nationally. So we do actually have staff who are in New South Wales. So I realise that ACT is in New South Wales. But we're also available through Zoom. Just reach out to Leanne and I and we can have a chat and then direct you to the nearest staff member who can have a chat with you specific to your area.
All right, excellent. And thank you. And Brian, I guess in relation to some of those comments with Security 2025, we see that some of the areas in that report are really going to challenge the industry in times to come, including cybersecurity. So in relation to that, where do we head as an industry now with the Security 2025 report?
Well, I suppose what the report actually identifies is some of the challenges that obviously we have to overcome. And I think what it actually identifies is that as an industry, we all need to think of how we do the business we do in a slightly different way. Some of the models that have worked in the past may not necessarily work into the future. So we need to have a look at our business structures, look at how we can use technology increasingly to make us more efficient and offer different services. But I think it actually highlights that there's a role for industry and peak bodies like ASIAL, but there's also a key role for consumers and users of security services to actually be a bit more thorough and greater transparency and ethics in their procurement processes, and also regulators to actually more effectively enforce and regulate the industry. So I think there's going to be some changes, but we need to get on board now rather than wait 5 years. I think people need to start thinking how they can provide the service they offer more efficiently and how they can use technology.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting from that point of view. It really is a roadmap that we're looking at, that we don't quite know exactly where these roads are heading, but at least we're now on that pathway of at least being able to guide people or where we should be thinking. It's not a matter of just waiting for people to tell us where we're going. This report is really trying to get everyone to at least realise that we need to be actively engaged in the direction of our industry. It's very important.
That's right. I mean, everyone needs to think about what they do, how they do it, if there's ways they can improve it, how they can collaborate with others. I think you just need to have a slightly fresh eyes, but it gives a bit of a, as you said, a roadmap, a little bit of a way forward, because I think people can get stuck in a holding pattern. And I think as an industry, we need to start thinking in different ways, because it's a growing industry, as the report acknowledges. It has a big role to play, and the role will continue to grow. So as an industry, we need to evolve in response to the greater demands are going to be placed on us.
In the report, we talk about a lot of things in licensing and national harmonisation, but recently we've got a lot of areas on what has been automatic mutual recognition. And with that automatic mutual recognition, we've got a situation whereby a lot of jurisdictions have received a delay in starting it. And at the moment, we've got Northern Territory is the only jurisdiction that's allowed automatic mutual recognition to cover security. Canberra and the ACT, there's a 12-month delay. New South Wales, 12-month delay. Victoria, 12-month delay. And all the other jurisdictions will need other legislation to bring it in. So in that area there, we also see that this Security 2025 is an opportunity for us to actually start to influence regulators and governments around Australia to actually try to harmonise the security licensing.
That's correct. I mean, I think the issue of AMR highlights the need to finally put to bed this issue of inconsistent licensing standards across the states and territories, because it is nonsensical that in this day and age that we have to drive over an invisible line and have another license. So we want to use this as a catalyst to affect meaningful change for our industry.
Yeah. You also mentioned a couple of things available for members online, and a lot of reports, a lot of information. And also Chris has mentioned that there's a lot of information coming out about COVID. We know the ACT, we've still got a closure in the ACT, COVID control until at least the 15th of this month. A lot of documents are available, but it's not always available to the public on the ASIAL website. And so members have really got to log into their member area to really get access to all of this information. Is that correct?
That's correct. Some of the areas of the website has information that is exclusive to ASIAL members. So to access the full range of bulletins and the reports that we provide, you will need to be logged into the members area. And if you have any issues logging in, just give us a call at the Secretariat and we'll talk you through the steps to access those reports.
All right, and that also goes to a lot of the work that Chris has been doing. And that's one for you, Chris, in relation to this come through. Do we have to pay casual employees sick and carers leave on top of their casual loading? You were discussing that area there. So what's the situation there?
No, Pete, casuals aren't entitled to paid sick leave, paid annual leave. Certainly in most of the states, there is an entitlement to accrue long service leave in certain conditions. But the most recent decisions out of appeal courts are that if the casual is a real casual, as defined in the Fair Work Act, they are not entitled to what was commonly called a double dip. So they get the 25% loading in lieu of sick leave, in lieu of annual leave, in lieu of other paid types of leave, redundancy, and so on.
All right, so in relation to that, it's as you're saying, into all the answers, there's really no always a clear yes and no, but people really have to come to you and really to get some of that clarity in what their situation, the specific answer for their situation. That's very important. Don't go out and make those decisions by yourselves. Seek some advice. And if it is other advice that needs to be legal, go and seek other professional advice before you actually make a wrong decision. Some of those decisions can become quite costly.
Oh, look, they can, Pete. We get a lot of questions every day. I'm dealing with questions from our members. We really have to drill down sometimes to find out the exact details behind that question so that we can give the best advice. But you know, you and I have been around for a long while, and we can very often give that advice, provided that we can extract the information that we need to determine what, in that specific situation, is the right fit.
All right, and just one has come in, and thanks, Chris. Just in relation to that, we talk about COVID, and you mentioned in your indication that the health orders in relation to vaccination, employers' decisions. We're seeing some organisations making those determinations about their own organisation, but you're indicating that really from a lot of our members being the small to medium-sized members, caution needs to be the forefront when making these determinations to demand people to be vaccinated. Very important time to understand your rights, responsibilities, and what the risks may play to your organisation.
Yeah, look, I would caution a small business or a medium-sized business to be very, very careful about directing employees to become vaccinated. Public health orders help. Every direction that you give an employee, whether it's about COVID or anything else, needs to be lawful and reasonable. Now, there's a lot behind lawful and reasonable, so we need to be very careful about what we do. We can get ourselves into all sorts of trouble. So get advice, either advice from ASIAL or advice from your lawyer before you start doing that. But public health orders help you. Other directions that you might get from your client who say, you know, we don't want people here unless they're vaxxed or double vaxxed or whatever, that's not necessarily going to put you in the area of lawful and reasonable. But talk to me first and we can work it through.
Because that's an important area, Chris, that comes up a lot from our members, is that clients determine that they don't want to see a guard, or they don't want to see a crowd controller, they don't want to see a technician on site unless they've been double vaxxed. That's a client's decision, and sometimes we don't have a lot of control over that at all.
No, that's true. It requires a lot of communication between the client and the provider, the service provider. Sometimes we can turn the client around, but it may very well be that they believe that they've got a health and safety issue involved in all of that, particularly with COVID, and that they've got the right to say who comes on their site and who doesn't. After that, our members have obligations towards their employees to provide them with work or whatever it might be. And again, come to me and we can talk it through and come up with the best solution if there is one.
All right, thanks, Chris. And Cara or Leanne, just in relation to it, and we talk about the funding and we talk about the money that's available. There has been some changes in some of the funding that's come through in recent times. How does that benefit, or how is that impacting upon organisations in the security industry?
Absolutely. It really benefits anyone signing people into training contracts. So at the moment, there is a 50% wage subsidy for the first year, capped at $7,000 a quarter, so up to $28,000 for the first year. But now for the second and third year, the government's also going to pay a wage subsidy while someone's signed into that traineeship. So the second year is 10% of their wage and the third year is 5%. So in essence, an employer over 3 years could get up to $37,000 in funding to support them having that person in a traineeship. So it just makes so much sense because they're probably going to employ that person anyway. They're going to need to train that person anyway. Why not sign them into a traineeship and attract that funding?
All right, so it's the old saying is that, really, I guess we've got to look at those opportunities and take those opportunities. And it's a matter of that a little bit extra communication, seeking a little bit extra advice from you actually can be a significant financial advantage to organisations, and we're assisting people in gaining employment within our organisation, and hopefully those people will remain with us. And we know that some move on, but the thing being is, as an organisation, we can take the opportunity, bring people into our organisations, get some funding support, and they're getting trained as well. Yeah. All right, and thank you very much for that. And just the another one, I think, Jack, just in relation to Guardhouse, if you're still there, just a mobile app. Where is Guardhouse and on the cloud? And do you have your mobile app? How does that go and how does that work?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. We've had a mobile app for many years for both Android and iOS devices, so compatible on both sides. We've also got a manager app and an employee app. So about 80% of what you guys can do on the web as a manager, you can also do on your phone. So quite powerful for those guys out in the field a lot.
All right. Look, thank you very much. And that brings us towards the end of our Q&As. I don't see anything more coming through to me. And so I do thank you all for attending. The thing being is, there's a lot of information available on the ASIAL website. There's a lot of information available in calling Chris or myself or the ASIAL Secretariat team. The thing being is, there's a lot of information available in using resources like Mass National, like Guardhouse. The thing being is, we've got resources there. It's a matter of using them. So I do thank you very much all for attending. I do thank Guardhouse, Jack and Julian. I do thank you very much, and Guardhouse continued support. Certainly Leanne and Cara from Mass National. It's an area that we hope our industry ringing you, seeking advice, and that you're able to assist them. We do thank you for your support in these recent virtual presentations. John Gillell, thank you very much as the new president, and certainly we look forward to John leading us through this Security 2025. Brian DeCaries, as always, in relation to a stable person behind our ASIAL team, and one that's leading this area of Security 2025. And certainly Chris Delaney, thanks Chris for your continued support. And didn't need a reminder that it's coming up to 11 o'clock and we're going to finish. But I do thank you very much, Chris, and certainly your support is valued by our members. So thank you very much. Stay safe. COVID's a challenge for all of us. And the thing being is, if we can work through this, we'll be out of this area sooner than later. So thanks very much, and look forward to catching up with you face-to-face soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.